So I'm talking to Jim Lamerson, and he's telling us about the cane that he's created.
Hi. Yeah, this is my 30th, and they're all embellished, and they're all different gemstones and different stories in their Storyteller canes. This particular cane that I just finished has to do with materials that are available in the gem industry and in the jewelry industry, and they're all one of a kind. They're all unique. Of course, because of who I am, I start my cane off with a guardian angel, and so this particular cane is Angel, and I labeled them all. I mean, they all have a particular title to me, and as you can see, this particular cane has a lot of glass, a lot of crystal. It has a lot of gem material, coral and lapis and turquoise, a lot of quartz. It's just what I do. And then here on the top, my wife cut me a black onyx. And then I embellished the black onyx with black tile and white mother of pearl and opal. And yeah, this is number 30, and I'm very fond of it. Of course, I'm fond of all of my canes. My canes are sort of like my children. This particular one took me about 6 months. Now, I didn't sit down and work on it 24/7, 365 for 6 months, but I do a little here, a little there. And over the period, I finally got it done. So,
How do you hold the gemstones on?
that's proprietary, and I don't share with anybody the type of adhesive I use because it's very good, but it's also very caustic. You have to be very careful when you're using it. It's very caustic to your skin, and the fumes are very caustic to your eyes and your lungs. So you have to be very careful when you do this sort of work. I've had, from time to time, over 30 canes, I've had issue where I've had some pretty bad acid burns on my skin from the glue, and but you learn.
So it's all an adhesive, though. It's not soldered on.
Yeah, some of the wire work is soldered. I do them in sections, and then I use copper wire, and I use brass wire. I use silver wire, and sometimes I use brass sheet, or I'll use copper sheet. And being in Arizona, we're the copper state, I think it's important to use some of our own material.
I see a lot of turquoise there. That's obviously
Yeah,
an Arizona
yeah.
stone.
Yeah, turquoise is from Arizona. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say every piece of turquoise on my cane is Arizona turquoise, because that's not true. The abalone, I can't really tell you where that comes from. I know that some of it comes off the coast, but which coast is who knows? I buy it, then I use it. And
I see you have like some medals right here.
that's all Republican. I do a lot with Republican and Americana. I do a lot of stuff with them, and I do a lot of religious because I'm a very religious guy. So you'll see a lot of crosses and crucifixions, and you'll see like my guardian angel on this one. So I call this cane Angel, and there's a reason why she's my angel. And then, of course, because my father-in-law was a Marine for his illustrious career over at Iwo Jima and Chosin Reservoir and protected our country from the bad guys, I embellish a lot of my canes with military memorabilia too, because my whole family are military personnel. So, yeah, I like them.
And you say they take you about 6 months or so.
It varies. Anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I've had one I did took as long as 9, but that's not all my canes. And then Ann cuts a lot of the wood that I use on my canes on our apple orchard up in New York, and she's brought me back birch, she's brought me back black walnut, she's brought me back some sort of an elm, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but she brings me back canes that she makes for me, and then I embellish them. And they have a lot of significance to me because every one of the canes that comes off the orchard is something that was left to me by my in-laws, the orchard. And one of the canes is, of course, because it's an apple orchard, I did out of apple wood. And so every time I lean on the cane, it feels as though I'm leaning on my in-laws, which is to me significant.
Now, these canes that you've made, these are all ones that you're keeping. These are not for sale.
Right. They're not. These are mine. They're like my babies. They're like my, they're very personal. That doesn't mean I can't share my skill or my talent with other people's memories, but they got to bring me their memories. I can't sell them my memories because those are my memories.
Well, it's quite lovely, and I can see just so much memorabilia in here. Tell me about this piece right here.
Hold on, let me get my glasses. As I get older, my eyes aren't what they used to be. You talking about this?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is a piece that my wife was able to get for me, and it was a bracelet. And I used the bracelet to go around all four sides of my cane, and it was embellished with synthetic blue zircon. And then this is glass that I picked up off the road from a car accident. And I do a lot of that stuff. I wander around and look for things. One of my canes has a knife and a fork that when my daughter was living out of her car, she found on the street. And I embellished that particular cane with that. So, yeah, they all have significant value to me.
And do you have a favorite of your 30 canes?
It would probably have to be, I have a cane of military memorabilia of everybody in my family that I've known in my whole life that have served in the military, and significant medals. I embellish my canes with that kind of keepsake. I have all the branches of military acknowledged on my canes, including the Coast Guard, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps. In fact, one of my uncles was in the Seabees, and there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that's sort of what I do on these. And then when I carry them, it reminds me of who I am. And since I'm compelled by medical consequence to carry a cane, it's got to be something that I would like and something that's significant to me. It can't just be some old plain cane someplace. It's not me.
Mm-hmm. So, and have you ever made one for anybody else?
No.
But you've had a few requests.
I've had requests, but typically people don't, it's commonplace in the United States where people want something for nothing. And in order for me to acquire some of the materials, the coral and the lapis and the turquoise, and sometimes I use black onyx or I use opal, I use jade, none of those things come for nothing. So when people hear the price, they panic. I would have a tendency to think that I couldn't put together a cane for less than $3,000 to $5,000. At the end of the day, when you look at the amount of hours, I would say that I probably have no less than 400 to maybe 500 hours of cane.
Wow. But it's kind of, I don't want to say it's your hobby because it's obviously more to you than your hobby.
It's a passion. And there's a difference. You got to remember, Lynn, I paint, I write poetry, I make jewelry. I'm in the arts. And when I was declared medically incompetent to serve the country in the military, I turned to the arts because as a child growing up over in Europe, I did a lot of painting and sculpting, and I was in the arts at that time. So I reverted back to the arts because that's where I was going to have to go if I was going to make a living. I couldn't do it in the military. And there's nothing else I had a passion for but either the military or the arts. Since I couldn't do one, I chose the other. And now for 45 years, I've been very effective at making a living in the arts, making jewelry.
And you also, in your shop here, you sell jewelry that other people have made, and you also have a wonderful selection of estate jewelry.
Yeah, yeah, that's all part of it. I mean, it's like when you own a gallery, not every painting in the gallery did you do. And it's the same thing when you're in the arts or when you're in a bookstore. You didn't write every one of the books you sell. You might have wrote some, but you didn't write them all. And that's sort of the way that works.
So, well, this cane is beautiful, and we'll try to get in and look at some of your other canes soon. I'm going to go ahead and start from the bottom and go all the way up so people can see.
Don't miss my crucifix that's embedded in coral. It's kind of significant, the blood of Christ. And I find that really kind of embellishing. And then I really like on this particular one, I use these faceted tiger eye, which is kind of neat. And then my new horses, I like my horses. So, and whatever you do, don't ever forget my Republican memorabilia, because, you know, I'm Republican through and through, and I never forget it.
And then you've got the coral up there.
And this is coral, and then this is really kind of a neat type of glass, and it's a type of mirror, and it's really kind of neat. I've been working a lot more with some of the carnival glasses and stuff more of recent, but in some of my other canes that you will see, you'll see almost all exclusively gemstone material. So
And what is that piece right up there?
here, it's just an emblem that my wife picked me up. I used to call this style cane because of the hook and everything. I call them beggar canes because she would go to yard sales and Salvation Army and swap meets and stuff like that and pick me a cane that a poor man would normally use. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with being poor, but there's nothing wrong with having things that are nice either. So what I would do is I would take what would otherwise be just a plain Jane cane and turn it into something special.
So, well, it's quite lovely, and we're looking forward to hearing more about some of your other canes.
Okay.
Thanks.